normal. Good evening, or should I say good evening in football terms. How is everyone doing? Hope everyone's well, even though it is a Sunday. Got a different looking panel this evening to normal. Carl's took a back step because he's up to his eyeballs in videos. So I'm going to take over this one. We've actually got, I think, by the looks of it, better internet connection. I've moved rooms in the house to downstairs. Close to the route as I possibly can, away from everyone else, so you don't have to be in the house with the Wilsons instead. So I've got two guests this evening. First of all, it's not his first time; it's his fourth or fifth time, I think, now, without counting. Posh, how you doing?
Even I've lost count, don't worry, but it's not the first. I'm doing good, thank you. Not too bad today. Obviously, our football club is still top of the league, but that's a story for a football channel. This is wrestling. But yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah, if we're not careful, Kyle will stop us from doing the live streams at all, because I've been told before that football's not allowed in this, which is quite cool because most of the time I don't want to speak about Arsenal anyway. And we've got someone new this evening. Barry, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you very much. Not too shabby.
Just to give you a little background, Barry is someone that lives close to me. Everyone else lives miles and miles away. But we been to quite a few independent wrestling shows together. And yeah, that's a little bit of a background. So, bumper show this evening. We've got so much in. First of all, I want to take you to the results of our little predictions section that we started last time. So obviously we had Kyle against myself, against guests. So I'm quickly going to run through some of the matches that were kind of worth talking about. So I have put the All-Star Scramble down. It was just mental. You didn't know where to look. And obviously it's set up for world title shot. In the end, I think every one of us put the right winner as Wardlow. I think that sets up an incredible match between him and Samoa Joe. Posh, did you see any of it?
I saw a couple matches. I saw Will Ospreay's match in particular. Mm-hmm. That was probably one of my favourites.
Oh yeah, So yeah, the Will Ospreay one. Obviously his first actual pay-per-view match fully in with AEW now. Obviously I knew exactly what to expect, having been lucky to see him in like indies and stuff with Barry. And it was incredible. It was just like him in every other promotion. I think Takeshita was amazing as well. There was one part where I don't know if you saw it, Posh, when so he tried to hit. I think it was a botch. I don't think it was meant to happen at all. So it was something off the turnbuckle, but it went wrong slightly, and the way it landed, Ospreay just literally landed head first and like snapped his neck back, and there was a massive like laceration on his neck, wasn't there? Because they got it completely wrong.
Didn't impact the match though.
No, it didn't impact the match. Like Everton professionally carried on.
Yeah.
But it would have like flattened most other wrestlers. Most other wrestlers would have just gone, yeah, that's me out, because it did look really, really painful. When I was like watching it, it was one of those moments where you kind of went, shit, right.
No, fair play to him for carrying on.
Yeah. But he literally carried on. Even the commentators were like going, yeah, I don't know how he's still carrying on, like as if to say, yeah, we've seriously got that wrong, and that could have seriously ended up worse than it was. Because he could have easily broken his neck. It's the way he just landed. He literally landed head first and then bent his neck back. It was just horrendous.
Oof,
But yeah, that was that. So obviously that was my favourite match of the evening. It was just incredible from start to finish. You never those sort of matches, you never kind of want them to end. You just want them to kind of carry on. Obviously, the biggest shock of the night was every single one of us put Orange Cassidy. So I was normally, what happens is I skip his matches because he's been champion for so long now. So I skipped it to the end, and I got right to the end where I'd skipped it, and I went, because literally it's like
a minute.
It's like a Gunther and Roman Reigns, like he's been champ for that long. So he was kind of going, all of us in the predictions were like, yeah, it's never going to happen. He's always going to retain.
Time when you least expect it. And
yeah, so I skipped it like normal. And I went, I had to go back and watch it then because it was just incredible. But it sets up, because Kyle O'Reilly's come back now, hasn't he, as well? So it sets up all the Undisputed Era to be in AEW at the same time, which is going to be nuts. Obviously, it's a bit weird because they can't just copy what WWE did with all three of them. So they've got to kind of, I don't know.
They're called the Undisputed Kingdom or whatever they're called now. It's
we all got really excited when that happened because it was like something big, but they've kind of just killed that off completely. So I don't really know where they go with that because obviously everyone's going to be going, oh my God, join them together. But yeah, so we'll see on that one, of course. And then obviously the main event being Samoa Joe retaining. So what everyone's more bothered about is who actually won the prediction. So there was two with joint scores. So we've got a joint title holder as of this evening. And then the person that isn't joint title holder was 1 point behind the two that have got it. So if everyone can imagine an imaginary drum roll, because I haven't got any equipment to do it with. So in last place, it's last place out of 3, so it's not really last place, but it's last place. The founder of the channel, Kyle, is in last place. So that means
so that's why he's not here.
I wish that was the case, but he didn't even know results before now. So, as joint title holders, we've got myself and the guests. If Kyle would like to, because obviously, I think what will happen when he sees this back, he'll go, "Well, it's fixed. You've written down like more predictions. You've changed them." But actually, I've still got the original document, so you can actually see that I haven't fixed it. I think the ones that did all of us, we all put Young Bucks down to win, but obviously that didn't happen. We all put Samoa Joe, although Kyle, the one that's cost him is he actually changed Samoa Joe to Stuart Strickland just to be different, but that's actually bit him on the old behind, as some would say. And that's cost him this time, but obviously he'll be back for revenge. Actually, I might test you all. I might put one on to, because NXT have got a pay-per-view before.
We need a tiebreaker between me and you. That's what needs to happen.
So I think we'll use that NXT pay-per-view as the tiebreaker, and that will require some of the guests to watch. I know you're
brilliant. That gives you more of an advantage than me. So probably should have kept my mouth shut, really.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, I don't mind.
But 4 heads. But you've got Barry and you've got Zach. So that's 6 of you against me. So between all 6 of you, you can create like a side chat if you like, just for predictions. So I can't see them, and then you can come up with that. I'm sure there is one more pay-per-view before their Mania ones, because I remember looking at last time if Elimination Chamber was the last one before Mania, which it was, and I'm sure there's an NXT pay-per-view before then. This is really gonna look daft on me if it isn't.
Not sure.
But I'm pretty sure there is. See, this is where like Joe Rogan comes in touch, doesn't he? Because now he's got someone that can check that. I have to physically go on to Google and check it myself.
Yeah, it's NXT Roadblock. Is the next one, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh. That's already been. That was this weekend. That was last week. So,
No,
so yeah. No, we haven't then. So I'll get Kyle to come up with a tiebreak question. To be fair, I think the Mania predictions are going to be like very different. And I think there's going to be lots of points between. So I just say we'll be joint champs until Mania. But then, however Mania lasts, we will have to have a winner out of that because we haven't got 2 titles. There's only 1 title. So can't be having joint holders. It's not how it works in this game. So, yeah, that was Revolution. I don't know. My thoughts on it are there was a couple of great matches, but a lot of the others were kind of very mediocre. Certainly not like to the level of a normal AEW pay-per-view, I don't think. Last year we've kind of been spoiled. I think we had Wrestle Dream and we had a couple of others where every single match was incredible. So yeah, it was okay. It was what it was. That's about it really. Posh, any further thoughts on the world of AEW Revolution?
I thought it was quite good. Obviously, some matches I didn't pay as close attention to, as you mentioned, Orange Cassidy's match. But some that I did, obviously, I saw Sting's last match. I thought that the Bucks would win because it's like wrestling tradition almost. That the person leaving the company or retiring puts over their opponent on the way out, which surprisingly didn't happen. But I thought it was a nice way for Sting to go out after how many decades in the wrestling business, and it was a good send off for him. And obviously Ospreay's match, as I said, was incredible, and as was that big old scramble match with Wardlow. That was chaotic. Which is
in my
lovely.
notes, it's a good job you reminded me that because I have got loads of pictures in the background that are now null and void because I've spoke about them all. But it's good you said that because on the All-Star Scramble, I've got 2 sets of notes that says setting up against Samoa Joe and Madness and Meat, and that's what kind of it was. Because it was literally just big burly men smacking each other for the duration of the whole match. So it's basically what it was. And then it's a good job you said that because I want to talk about something that I've completely missed over. But this was the scene as of the Sting match. So to put it into context for people that kind of haven't seen it or haven't like heard about it, I believe there was, so on the outside they'd set up 2 lots of chairs on either side. Correct me if I'm wrong, Posh, because I'm doing this from memory. So they set up 2 lots of chairs on either side and then put 2 glass panes in the middle of it. It looked as though the Young Bucks were going to get like put through them, and last minute they kind of jumped off, and then obviously that's what happened. And yeah, all I can say is you've got to be a very brave man to want to go through that. Obviously, Darby Allin's one of those people that would have he wouldn't have even kind of thought about it. He'd just like, yeah, let's do it. Like, that's just normal.
Timid for him, and it's like, I don't know, that's the equivalent of stubbing his toe or something, isn't it? That kind of thing.
I'd never seen in the modern era of wrestling. Though I don't think I've seen someone so bad off straight away, because that picture doesn't do it justice. Like his whole back just split into 2. It was like one of those one of those horror films where her legs gets chopped off and there's blood spurting everywhere. It was literally like that because his back just folded into two, and there was literally like blood coming from one side of his back and then blood coming from the other side. Like it was just crazy. Obviously, we've got a picture of Sting there at the end. I'm just going to go through my pictures anyway, even though I spoke about it now. Here's Ospreay. Probably saying bruv while he did that. Roderick Strong, and then Wardlow with two massive black eyes by the looks of it. So yeah, that was kind of that. I suppose it's a really tough one for AEW at the minute because this is the time of year where they know anything that they do is going to pale in comparison to what the WWE is doing. So like they've got these like last few months where every focus in the wrestling world's on WrestleMania and the lead up to it. So like AEW must know, right, we can do everything that we possibly can, but even if we built the best pay-per-view matches, it would still be like trash compared to what everyone's expecting from WWE. So I think they did quite a good job in kind of making great matches.
It's also why they like Okada's debuting now and potentially Mercedes, Sasha Banks formerly, in like next week or so. I can't remember when, but it's why they're creating those particular like moments almost just close to Mania to try and get some, publicity and attention to them.
Yeah, I think that's why they announced the match that they did as well today. If you haven't already seen, Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson will be having a match on April the... I'll put it in the group chat, so I'll give you an exact date. So it is April the... April the 21st at AEW Dynasty, which also Tony Khan said that something along the lines of for AEW Dynasty, forget everything you know before now about professional wrestling. We're going to announce something that's absolutely huge. So hopefully it's not that
Tony
match.
Khan says it.
Yeah, hopefully it's not that match, and hopefully there'll be something nuts. But my understanding is probably he said that just to get people excited, and then it's going to be like very, very, very kind of melodramatic and be like, yeah, was that it? Because, yeah, obviously that's what he's really good at. Getting people really excited and then kind of being like, yep, this is what it is. And everybody's like, oh, okay then. A bit like when, I imagine it will be a bit like a Jinder Mahal moment when WWE brought him back and everyone was getting really excited, and then he came out and everybody's like, oh. And I imagine it will be like that, but again, I hope I'm wrong. So we then kind of cross over. Well, what I'll do first is I'll just quickly run through the AEW after Revolution, and then we can bring Barry into the video as well, because at the minute he's just kind of sat there thinking.
Sorry.
So there's literally two things that happened on AEW. Hook defended his FTW championship against Brian Cage. And when I was looking at this, the graphic, obviously Hook's this tiny little man completely compared to Brian Cage. He's this absolute beast. So like, if you put them next to each other, and in the ring, I didn't watch AEW, but if you put them in the ring, you'd think there's no way that Hook is going to beat him. But somehow it happened, and he's still FTW champion. The other thing that happened was another battle within the Don Callis family. Will Ospreay and Carl Fletcher had a match. I thought this was for the title, but it turns out it wasn't. So Ospreay won. Carl Fletcher's got a title. I can't remember which one it was now off the top of my head. I thought it was going to be for the title. So when I saw that Ospreay won, I was like, well, that's a bit weird. But it wasn't. It was just kind of a Don Callis family appreciation match again, let's say. But I heard it was a really good match. But that was literally it from AEW side of things. So yeah, on to the stuff that we can get Barry involved in now. Raw and SmackDown. So this week's been a bit of a weird one because they kind of, both of them have kind of hyped up this one thing. So, which is obviously to do with Roman and Cody and whatever, and The Rock and Roman. But so both Raw and SmackDown kind of were just around both of those things, which obviously it's got to be at the minute because that's their big draw at the moment. Although there was one thing on SmackDown that Barry's not going to like the picture of. I'll use the exact words that were said off stream. What's the policy on this channel about swearing?
It's not just Barry who hates this. Just for clarification.
Yeah, I'm a Logan Paul and a KSI fan, but I must admit this is just ridiculous. Yeah, I'm gonna roll it over to Barry first because I think he's got a world of abuse that he wants to hurl at this segment.
I've no problem with it in theory. Like, UFC do it, basketball do it. Like other sports have a logo in the middle of their field, their pitch, their arena, whatever. So I have no problem with it in theory. But I wouldn't want to advertise what is basically a luminous bottle of piss in the middle of my ring. Like, make it something good. Make it something people actually want, not this fad that's now dying out where half of all the imports to the UK at one point were being banned because they weren't fit for human consumption. Like, no, I'm all right with that. I don't want to be seeing that on my TV. Now, if this is an angle, because it's obviously Logan Paul and KSI are announcing it, and I did kind of like the segment. I love KSI getting an RKO from Randy Orton, because every time he comes on the show, someone messes him up, and I can't stand those two in real life. They're a bunch of barrel-scraping chances, and I hate them. So anything that deals damage to them, I'm here for it. So you want to RKO KSI on a Prime thing and then pour Prime onto his crotch? Yes, absolutely. I will pay to watch that every week. But yeah, no issues with it in principle. And if it's a setup to what I think is going to be a Mania match between Logan Paul and Randy Orton, then actually I'm here for it. If it's serious though, I don't think it can be. But if it is serious, it's like, nah, you can keep.
I regret to inform you, it is an actual sponsorship.
Oh,
and their Prime will be in the middle of that sacred ring.
It looks awful though, doesn't it? I don't know about you, but like if it was smaller, you could barely see it, that would be acceptable. But at this point, it takes your attention from everything else in the ring because it's so big and it's so in the middle. So actually, I think it's really bad on WWE's part because it just looks ridiculous. Looks like some child has just come into the ring, stuck a sticker on the ring, and then said, "Oh, here's what we're advertising." So, yeah, it does strike me as a little bit of a money grab from WWE because it certainly doesn't hold the same draw that it did as of towards the end of last year when everybody in the UK was going nuts about it. In America, apparently, there is like crates and crates and crates and crates of it in like Walmarts and stuff, and nobody touches it anymore. So it's a weird one. If it was like, for example, let's do it in UK terms. If it was like Monster in the middle of the ring, like that's an actual draw. People drink that stuff. Don't really think now the kids have got over and got every single flavour of Prime on their windowsill. I don't actually think that anybody wants to drink it anymore, to be honest. I quite like the blue one. I drank it for a little bit. But when I found out that the energy drink that they had they were trying to get it banned in America.
Mm.
Yeah, then that's when I went, yeah, I don't think anybody should be drinking this, to be honest. I'd say I'd take the mick because I just said all the kids have got it on the windowsill, but I actually have got all the bottles on the windowsill. So it's me that I'm taking the mick out of, to be fair. But I'm going to bin them all because every time I put my blind down, they just fly out all over my room anyway. So it's pointless having them. And Barry's shaking his head in disgust. He'll probably never speak to me again now. I've just exposed that I've got all the prime bottles like a child.
I tried the red one once and it tasted like paint. Not that I know what paint tastes like. I've never had that
Posh,
before.
yeah. I've got
But
a
I can
picture of
imagine
Posh.
if I could imagine what paint would taste like, it'd be like the red bottle of Prime.
I can imagine Posh in the corner of the room with a paintbrush, just eating off a paintbrush. When Arsenal have lost 2-0 or they've lost 4-1.
Yeah, when we bottled the
paint
league
in
at the
corner.
Etihad last year, you know.
So yeah, that was one of the main things that happened on SmackDown, which is just appalling if you tell them, like, if you talk to me about it, because having that as like one of your things. So I've got a couple of notes. That was one of them, and then the other one was obviously Cody and Seth kind of accepting the challenge. So if anybody
before you go on to that, can I just say my? I know we've touched on this subject a lot, but can I just say my 2 cents about the whole Prime Gate? Look, much to what Barry said, I've got no problem with Prime and WWE. Prime, like, or WWE sponsoring Prime. If you want to have it on like the advertising boards, fine, whatever. Not in the middle of the ring, like canvas. Not in the middle of the ring, which has never happened before in WWE. It's like a traditional thing has just gone completely out the window, and it's a big distraction. Like Roman Reigns could potentially end his historic title reign on top of a big Prime logo. Just let that sink in for a bit. And I'm also seeing a lot of people go, oh my God, KSI is in WWE. He needs to have a match with Logan Paul or whatever. And I'm like, you tread very carefully, because WWE are going to look at that and go, oh, they like KSI. They like the influencers. That's what we should have more of. And it will just be a big invasion of the Misfits boxing people, I think they're called, in WWE. Like, if we're not careful, Raw after Mania, Rhea Ripley's going to get confronted by Astrid Wett. We can't let that happen.
Yeah, we can't.
Anyway, I just don't like the idea of all of this. I think, whilst Logan Paul has been impressive and everything in the ring, I give him that, but we can't have too many YouTubers and influencers or whatever interfering in our wrestling. It's our sport.
No, I don't think. No, the thing is, I look at it from like playing devil's advocate. I don't think that anybody else, realistically, in the social influencer YouTube kind of space, could actually wrestle. Because Logan Paul, the reason why Logan Paul is so good is because during college he was a champion in mat wrestling. Yeah. So actually that's the reason as to why he's good. And the reason why he works is because not only can he actually wrestle, but the other side of it, his YouTube kind of career has kind of played into his whole character. So he is able to sell things better than, I don't know, if KSI stepped up. And because KSI could maybe do that that side where he could sell stories, but if he actually tried to wrestle, he'd be shocking, absolutely shocking. So, yeah, I've just thought of something. This could take the channel off air, so Carla, apologise if that happened. But
goodbye, everybody.
I've just got visions, right, of he who shall not be named, who we can't name anymore, just walking into the headquarters after he sees what they've done with Prime, just going up to Triple H and doing the famous, oh, my, because he would just not stand for anything like that. So it just seems so bizarre that actually the current management structure actually want this to happen, because it just looks dreadful.
Well,
Like, so-
the Prime sponsorship is so bad, it's got us actively defending him.
Mhm.
well, I mean,
Says it all.
I mean,
You know what I
given
mean.
what he
In
does
that
stand.
context.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So
In
given
that
what he
context.
does stand for, that's a bit of a
Oh
strong
no,
Yeah.
we
thing.
don't
We're
stand
defending him.
against anything that he
yeah.
did, but I just imagine that happening, like, because it's just shocking. So thankfully, any of the people, nobody was there live, so nobody can actually clip it. Well, they can clip it, I suppose, afterwards. But yeah, that's that. So going back briefly to what we said, so they obviously accepted the challenge. Roland said something about direct quote. You listen to me, Mr. Midlife Crisis. I don't know whether that. I'm trying to think of that in context of what happened. I'm pretty sure he's saying that to The Rock and not like anyone else.
Yeah, he
Just
did.
the
He
only
said-
one that makes sense to. But on
Yeah.
my Bleacher Report, when I was looking for the notes, it didn't say who he said that to. So we kind of cleared that one up. Then obviously Cody Rhodes slapped The Rock in the face, which is it was a bit bizarre. It was kind of like, it wasn't even like a proper slap. It was a bit of a tickle. So it just didn't really add anything to it, I don't think. I don't know what you guys thought of that segment. I thought the segment as a whole was quite good. I just thought the end was kind of a bit melodramatic.
I loved the slap. I thought it was so good because the press conference when Rock slapped Cody, it's because Cody was calling out his dad, Rock's family. So if your dad was seeing you, he'd be embarrassed. Slap. Switch it to Friday night, other way around. The Rock bizarrely calling out the fact that Cody's 20 years younger than his brother, given that there's 20 years between the Rock's daughters. I thought that was a bold move. But yeah, so he's there criticizing Dusty Rhodes and calling him a mistake. So he slapped him. I like the parallel. I like the callback to the. I don't know if you can technically call it a callback because it wasn't that long ago, but it's technically, I suppose it is a callback to the press conference. And then that little smile on the Rock's face, that was great selling. I think that's a very good "I'm under your skin" kind of smile. But no, I really liked it, and I especially like Seth Rollins calling The Rock midlife crisis man.
Yeah, see, I didn't put that two and two together because I didn't watch the press conference. So you've kind of made my statement of, oh yeah, it was just like a bit of a tickle. You've just kind of stepped on that, trampled
Sorry.
it, and then no, it's all good. It's all good. But see, it does make sense now. So I'll take my before statement back and say the slap actually made sense. Posh, any other thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was very good. Obviously, I think they kind of ran out of time, and SmackDown went off air, as far as I was aware of, just like a millisecond after the slap happened. But yeah, I think it's more good build to this story. They're doing very well with it. I think they took the whole backlash of The Rock interfering in Cody's like potential finishing the story, whatever they call it, and they've taken it and grabbed it by the horns. So yeah, I think it's going good at the moment, and the tag match is going to be interesting with all the potential ramifications regarding night 2. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what else happens.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because before, when I kind of heard the early rumors of there's going to be a tag match on night 1, I was like, oh, great! So they're just kind of filling in a match now to have a big match on night 1. But then, as the weeks unfolded, we found out that all the stipulations and stuff. So I think it's made it from a nothing match into a huge, massive match that will probably main event night 1. if I was to do an early prediction, just because of the ramifications it has for night 2. So I think it will main event it. But obviously, we'll find that out. That's only just an early kind of prediction into that. So I've kind of gone against the grain and done SmackDown before Raw unintentionally, but Raw kind of was a lot towards kind of what was coming up on Friday. But there was also some interesting bits. Rollins actually called Rock Diarrhea Dwayne, which I'm not sure how I feel on that one, because it's almost like a toddler has gone into WWE HQ and gone, oh, I know what we'll call The Rock. That's what we'll call him. And Triple H has gone, yeah, let's roll with that. So it was kind of a bit bizarre.
Like when people try and insult me by calling me Dirty Bertie, I'm like, wow, okay, I've not heard that before. That's original.
Gonna Google that later.
Yeah. Wrestle Dogs will not be held responsible for what comes up in that Google search.
I'll say search it.
Disclaimer, everyone, don't search that after the show. We won't be held responsible for anything you see on the other side. So that was one of the lines, because obviously it's been in the last couple of weeks, I've actually started to try and bring a different angle to this. I've tried to go like fine into the segments and find like the little bits that are a bit bizarre. Because mainly Raw and SmackDown, I spend about 2 minutes on each of them because there's just nothing to it every week. But yeah, we've got that. We also had another slight comedy moment, if you can call Diarrhea Dwayne a comedy moment. We had Cody Rhodes actually telling The Rock, don't ever talk about my dog, which is a bit bizarre. It was one of those ones that I was watching it and kind of thinking, I don't really know how to take that, because it's kind of something off the grain, but it kind of doesn't make any sense all at the same time. It's very like Diarrhea Dwayne and don't ever talk about my dog. It's very like playground sort of stuff. And for most of the viewers, unless you're under the age of 5, really you wouldn't find that at all funny. So it was a more like, go on, Barry.
I quite liked it. I mean, you're not wrong. It is childish calling him Diarrhea Dwayne, but the best heel character outside of Mr. McMahon ever in the history of professional wrestling throughout all time was Hollywood Rock. Just there's no one better. Like when he's doing all his rock concerts and stuff, like the yay, he said Toronto moment and the Sacramento song, like absolutely brilliant. This heel rock, it's just bland. It's just verbal diarrhea. He's repeating himself a lot, and it's so bad. I don't get me wrong. I still want to watch. Like it, I'm still looking forward to it, but I don't know where heel rock's gone. So calling him Diarrhea Dwayne because that's all that's coming out of his mouth. I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
But again, you have to have it's very marky. I think you have to know The Rock's history. You have to be a nerd like I am. Like you have to be the type of guy who watches highlight videos from years ago and re-watches the Rock concerts type thing. If you knew that Rock, I think Diarrhea Dwayne. God, that's difficult to say, isn't it? I liked it, but yeah, if you're not that type of person, it's childish and it's silly and it's just my dad's bigger than your dad kind of humor. But I think there are times they're getting too cute with it. I love it because I'm that type of person. But if you're not me, I think they can be getting a bit too cute at times.
Yeah, see, obviously I didn't put that relevance to it, so it kind of makes a little bit more sense to it now. But in terms of, it's a weird one because I think in terms of the character he's come back on, I think it's been a kind of a little bit of a. I would disagree on the part. So I would agree partly with what you said in terms of in accordance to the old Rock. It doesn't make much sense. But actually, I think I would counter that and say actually it's been a breath of fresh air since he's come back into the scene. I don't like him as a person. I kind of think that he only comes back to WWE when it suits him and when his money isn't going or he fancies doing something else. So I'm kind of not his biggest fan, but I have actually enjoyed the segments he's been in since he's come back. I kind of feel a little bit sorry for him in one sense because he kind of has been asked to carry the whole segment in some sense because Roman Reigns is doing absolutely nothing. Paul Heyman's doing absolutely nothing. And it is all kind of Rock, Cody, and Rollins. So I do feel a little bit sorry for him in terms of he's not getting much help from his side of the story. It's just him. And kind of Roman Reigns is somewhat just in the background saying some random voice notes now and then. But Posh, what are your thoughts around the kind of whole like Rock scenario at the minute?
I think obviously when the likes of CM Punk got injured and everything, I know there were quite rumors about The Rock coming back and he wanted to, I think it's obviously I know I didn't agree with the idea of him originally facing Roman for the championship when, of course, Cody won the Royal Rumble and everything, and it was all kind of leading towards him, and they just kind of like took that away. So they kind of led into that because of the criticism and everything. I think I think it's all right. And the tag match itself, as I mentioned, is I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, I don't mind. I don't like the whole like diarrhea thing. I do think it's a little bit, again, it is a bit childish, but then again, yeah, I don't mind what The Rock's been saying. I don't think it's been as that bland. I don't think. I like the whole when he talked about what's Phoenix, Arizona, and the crackheads and meth use thing. That was phenomenal. But yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind The Rock at the moment.
Yeah, I think it will.
It's fantastic. I agree with Barry there.
I think it will kind of split. I think it will split opinions, won't it? Because the new school of wrestling fans that don't know much about The Rock before, they'll say, "Oh my god, it's amazing," but that when someone that knows the history, so for example, like somebody at the channel that we know, like Lee Meadows, he might sit back, or Barry, you might sit back and say, in accordance to what Rock has been in the past, this is like a shadow of that. So I think you'll have an equal split of people that think it's really good and people that are not so happy with it. But I suppose that's what they want because they want the new school of wrestling fans to like it, and they're not really bothered if they piss off the people that have been watching it for a long time because their audience is getting this new breed of wrestling fans on. So for them, it's kind of win-win that people are debating it like we are this evening. It's kind of win-win for them and no loss. So other than that, the only other thing to really talk about was that me and Barry was talking about this a little bit off stream. But obviously Gunther then faced Dominic Mysterio. I don't know what happened in that match. I should have wrote that down. But if you fancy finding out what happened in that match, you can obviously go in after and have a look. But the main thing was that at the end, it was announced that there'd be a gauntlet match to determine Gunther's challenger. I'm going to put my 2 pence on this first because I'm really disappointed at what WWE have done here because when you've got someone that's had a title for so long like Gunther has, if you put anyone else up against him that's not top level superstar, you know for a fact what the outcome's going to be. So I looked at it upon reflection while I was writing my notes today and thought, actually, if tomorrow they said it was Gunther versus Dominic Mysterio at Mania, I'd be more than happy with that. I'd be like, yeah, we can do some great things with like Imperium, the Judgment Day leading up to Mania. I thought, yeah, it'd be fantastic. And actually, if Dominic Mysterio went on to win that match, you'd say, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But before I go to Posh, I'm going to kind of give you the people that have been announced. So Sami Zayn, Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bronson Reed, JD McDonough, and Chad Gable. So off stream, I said to Barry that surely none of those people can end a reign as long as Gunther's. Barry wildly disagrees. I know that, which is why I'm going to come to him last. Posh, what are your thoughts around it?
Well, I think if you replace JD McDonough with Gunther, then that's a great ladder match for Mania to like open night 1 or night 2 or whatever. That's how I could have seen it, because they've been building a lot of the like backgrounds almost of a lot of the wrestlers, like Chad Gable, for example. I think they did some stuff with Ricochet as well. I don't know what, but I think they kind of did something with him. Of course, Sami Zayn as well, lest we forget. So, and I think with some of the people in that in the ring there, in the gauntlet match, I think that could have easily been a great like IC title ladder match for Mania, obviously with Gunther in there. But when you say that's how I would have, if I was Booker Bertie, I would have not Booker T, head Booker Posh Bertie, I would have booked that match for WrestleMania. But when you say that no one there could dethrone Gunther, I think Sami Zayn's a good shout. That's a viable option, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the only one that's credible.
Like good underdog kind of story thing, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, but we've seen that before from Sami Zayn quite a few times. So they're just reusing.
Yeah, that's kind of Sami Zayn's thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost.
So realistically, so this is the angle that I look at it from. So it sounds really bad because I'm kind of putting all these superstars down, which is not what I mean to do. I just mean in terms of how long Gunther's been champion. So the thing is with Mania, all the matches and every single match in Mania, if it's going to be a good match, needs an amazing run up to Mania. Not an amazing one, but an okay one. So I look at it from a situation of not how the wrestling match goes, but how can the WWE make people excited for what's to come at Mania. And if I take away the people in there that have been put in that gauntlet match, they're all okay at selling a match. Sami Zayn's fantastic. Some of the others are fantastic at building the match. But realistically, when you know how long that Gunther's been there for and champion, you put all of those people in a match with him, having known how long that he's been champion for, and you go, surely the WWE can't change this long reign for the person that Barry thinks might dethrone Gunther. So I'll go to you next, and I'll just kind of finish what I'm saying once you've...
JD McDonough has no right to be in that match. He's not even he is the worst member of the Judgment Day.
He's Judgment Day's jobber.
Yeah, I mean, I am including R-Truth in that list as well. So, like, he is the worst member of the Judgment Day. Bronson Reed, brilliant, but I don't know what's... There's been talk about he had to pull out the Elimination Chamber because of his wife, and then it wasn't his wife. But, like, he's stuttered and started. I don't think through any fault of his own, but there's nothing there. Sami Zayn, we've seen it before. I love Sami Zayn.
Me too.
Nakamura, I think, is brilliant and criminally been underused by WWE. My favourite for that one, and to be fair, the idea of putting that as a ladder match and to take JD McDonough out of that and putting Gunther in there, I'm getting, I can't remember which WrestleMania it was, but I'm getting that Zack Ryder vibe of winning the IC title and the opening match of, or was it a pre-show? But I think it was opening match.
This is what we need.
The show, I think
it did, yeah. That with someone else other than Gunther winning it, actually, I quite like that. As long as you don't then lose it on Raw the next day. But I think the most story-ready one, given the time pressure, is Chad Gable. Chad Gable is probably the most technical wrestler in WWE at the moment. He is outstanding.
Been really underutilized, like his entire career almost, doesn't he? But in WWE, yeah.
It's just basically been made like, because he's been sold as this wrestler that is kind of the last fodder for everything match-wise. But actually, when he wrestles, he's always been kind of that mid-card to low-card person. Really, there's never been any push. So actually, when you look at it like that, and you like kind of, obviously, I don't want to cut you up, so you can.
But like he really should have won the IC title earlier, but I get why they didn't give it to him, because they wanted Gunther to beat the Honky Tonk Man's record, and I get that. That's fine. So, but he should have won. He got screwed. You have what? 3-4 weeks, if that, to build up a story. I got screwed. I'm coming for you. He doesn't need a backstory. Let him win the gauntlet match, and he's like, "You screwed me last time. This time, all right." It's a little bit Cody Rhodes said, "I'm finishing my story," so that might count against him. But it's there. He's a brilliant wrestler. The crowd love him, and he has a ready-made story. No one else does. There's nothing there, and you're not wrong, Sam. You still do need a good build-up to WrestleMania. It doesn't need to be outstanding, because the match itself can be good enough to get it over. But every pay-per-view event, every match is better if there's a storyline behind it. And I don't think there's anyone with a better storyline than Gunther, Chad Gable. And I think Chad Gable's the best wrestler in that group. And I say that Sami Zayn and Nakamura and Ricochet. Sorry, I forgot Ricochet. Sorry, Mr. Ricochet. That's my fault. But out of that group, I think Chad Gable's the most ready, and the most that pop when he wins it. Oh, Cody winning, if he does, might be the only pop bigger than that one.
I think this is a new record for the channel. Barry's made me eat my words twice this evening. So I think this is another one, because as Barry kind of sold that to me as chief booker there, I kind of somewhat now am rooting for Chad Gable to win the gauntlet and win the whole damn thing as we so that's kind of it for how we stand as of last week of Raw. I'm going to throw it out there now, because I won't make him spotlight like some people, like Lee's done to me a few times, where he just puts me on the whole screen and I've got to stare at myself. I won't do that.
He does that to me sometimes, and I'm like, "Hey, come on, Mr. Meadows, don't."
It's really.
You don't want to distract viewers away, you know.
Yeah.
Don't want this up close. Good heavens.
Mm-hmm. It's cruel, and actually, I think if I did that to Barry, he'd say, "Actually, next time you ask me to come on, I'm not coming on." So, so what I'll do is I'm going to hand it over now, because me and
of all times to appear. Hello, Lee. Good to see you.
It was almost like he heard his name. It was that Beetlejuice moment. It was almost like he heard his name and then he came into the comments.
The Candy Man. You say his name, he appears.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's all right, Lee. I just decided I wanted to make a joke of it more than I could make a joke myself. So I lent on you instead. So there we are. So me and Zach and Barry are in a little group chat that we've made since we went to the Independence together. Zach was going to join us, and I'm sure he'll be on a future one. But we were kind of, I don't know how we got talking about it, but we were kind of talking about obviously coming on the show this evening, and then we kind of got into a tangent of both Barry and Zach's predictions for how the whole storyline is going to play out between Cody, Rollins, Rock, and Roman. Zach gave it. I'm gonna actually credit him to see what he actually put in this group chat. I feel it's needed now. I've just kind of hyped both of them up. So Zach's belief was the Rock takes the pin on night one. Roman loses it with him post match. And then Rock actually cost Roman on night two, which I thought was a really good prediction. But then Barry just basically went, "Nah, I'm not having that. I'm not having you take the spotlight." And in comes a massive.
I think I might know what it's going to be, but I'm not going to say
a massive
anything.
prediction that Posh, you'll be really proud of, and I think all the viewers watching this will be proud of as well, and the people that are watching back. So I'm going to hand it over to Barry. If he's got to, the challenge is though, he's got to remember what he put word for word. So if actually he's not got it word for word and go, no, not really. But yeah, you go with the prediction that you had, because I thought it was fantastic, to be fair.
Okay. So I think because everyone was expecting Rock Roman, and I think people are still expecting Rock Roman. I think a lot of people were expecting exactly as Zach said, that one of them will screw the other one, cost them night one, and then night two, the other one gets revenge. So break up of the bloodline that way. I think it's going to go a little different. So night one, tag match, main event, Cody takes the pin. I think the bloodline will win. I think they'll pin Cody. I think they'll flood social media, the YouTube, everything for the following day and leading up to WrestleMania to go, can Cody actually do this? Can he actually finish his own story? Like Seth is completely blameless. Maybe Seth's a bit beaten up if his title match is night one. I don't think it will be, but maybe you could do it that way. So, but Cody takes the pin. Doesn't have to be clean. Bloodline is bloodline. They're going to cheat. In that, there's a little bit of a power struggle between Rock and Roman about who is the tribal chief. I think you start seeing that crack. So, night one, Cody takes the pin. Night two, because he's seen the social media, he's seen people coming up, he's had people coming up to him and, trying to give him pep talks. He doesn't need them. People are trying to get in his ear. He's telling them to leave. Cody is pounding, absolutely battering Roman. I'm talking near squash match type of domination. But then the bloodline's the bloodline. And they do exactly as Drew McIntyre has been telling Seth that they're going to do for the last couple of weeks. They're going to interfere. Solo's going to give him a Samoan spike. It's just going to be, oh, God, it's the same thing over and over again. So I think they're going to get on top. I think everyone's going to get, I think there's going to be a lot of booing. I think people are going to get really, really annoyed. Suddenly KO appears. Suddenly Sami Zayn's running out. Suddenly Jey Uso's coming out. Sheamus makes his appearance again, assuming he hasn't gone to AEW by that point. But I think Sheamus comes down. Drew McIntyre. Has he? Oh, because he would have topped off. Like Drew McIntyre even comes down. Anyone who's been screwed over by the bloodline comes running in. And we have Roman and Cody battered and on the ground in the ring. God, please don't let one of them be on the prime bottle. But just outside of the ring, all you see is the WWE roster coming out and just battering the bloodline. put Paul Heyman through a table. That'd be hilarious. He's surprisingly good at that. He bumps so well. I think because he does it so irregularly, but he bumps so well. And yeah, I think WWE come out and just batter the bloodline. I think The Rock can go, oh no, I don't want this. And he abandons the bloodline. And then there's your Rock Roman setup for a bit down the line, because a family doesn't abandon family. And then I don't know the mechanics of it. I don't know if it's possible, but I would have as the unofficial lumberjacks, I suppose they are now, are all on the outside. I want Roman to go for a spear, and Cody Rhodes counters into a crossroads. And then that's the 1, 2, 3, and Cody wins it. And then it ends with, all right, it is a little bit of a callback, and they will be recreating it, but it'll be done properly this time. We see SummerSlam 93 done properly, where all of these lumberjacks come in. Yeah, and they've got Cody on their shoulders like they did with Lex Luger, but actually Cody's won this time, unlike Lex when he lost, and they still celebrate like he won. But yeah, they would have Cody on their shoulders, and they'll all be celebrating with just the bloodline battered and lying on the ground. And then you'd have Michael Cole, who, as a quick aside, now he doesn't have name redacted in his ear all the time, is brilliant again. And just him and Pat McAfee just extolling what's happened, and just proper celebration. And I think that's how night 2 is going to end, with a proper what happens to the bloodline, what is going on, how do they recover. That's how I would do
it
night 2.
Makes sense, because I know that WWE are dying to have like a Jay and Jimmy match, which I think will come down the line. Their hope was probably that it was going to be like a Mania, because that would have been a massive Mania match. But I think that all kind of makes sense. Hope it happens, because that sounds absolutely amazing. It sounds like a movie of sorts. But
Cinema.
So it's good you did say that, actually, because it's maybe missed one of the notes. Actually, it's really interesting. If you didn't read Bleacher Report after, you might have missed this. But actually, during the Gunther match, Michael Cole actually congratulated Sting, was going to say what promotion it was, but then Pat McAfee kind of spoke really quickly so that they couldn't get that it was AEW and it was Revolution, which I thought was a really nice touch from whether it was Michael Cole or whether it was like the powers above. I imagine it was just Michael Cole being Michael Cole, to be fair. But I thought it was a really nice touch, actually, to, even though he's finished his career in a rival promotion, that they've still kind of done what they should have done. And people will probably say, yeah, they haven't done that before with other people, such and such, and they haven't been kind to it. But actually, that was good on their part. It feels kind of weird congratulating WWE on something they did. Don't do that very often. But I will on this note, because that was a really nice touch from them to actually acknowledge that. Because when I actually look back on it, there's so many matches that WWE could have had him in that would have been absolutely amazing. I think he may have still been at WWE if they booked him better and actually given him like the matches that he deserved. He probably would still be in WWE and not in AEW. So he would have probably finished his career in WWE. Potentially. That's only my thoughts around it, because I just don't really remember much about his time in WWE as such, other than it was just kind of a what could have been throughout his whole time there. So yeah, I think he could have carried on wrestling more, but actually, when you think about it, it's probably good that he does stop where he is, because we have got this kind of wrestler that we've spoke about over the last couple of weeks, actually, on these shows, that aren't to the standard they have been, and actually just probably damaging their bodies more than they actually should be keeping wrestling. whether he stays out of wrestling, that's always the tough thing for anybody that retires, because they're likely to get so many emails and phone calls. Will he come on this indie promotion? Will he do that? So whether he actually stays out of wrestling is obviously to be seen. But I just thought that was really cool from the WWE to actually acknowledge that it's happening and not kind of, as they normally do, think that nobody else watches any other promotion and that it's WWE or nothing. So actually to acknowledge that it was going on is actually a big step for them, and I think it kind of shows the direction they're going to go in now, potentially, now that we have come away from the era of name redacted. In my head, I'm thinking, is this something that they're actually going to take on board and actually be upstanding brand and acknowledge that there is different wrestlers that they had before that are no longer with them, and that you can't mention names, and because it's just daft. Like, by mentioning, even if Michael Cole had said, "Oh yeah, Sting's going to have his final match on AEW Revolution this weekend," it's not going to make their money go any less. People are still going to either watch WWE or AEW. It's not going to damage them at all. So I hope we're in an era now where they are actually decent people and do the right thing now, rather than, as we've had for the last however long.
I mean, in their defense, I mean, they have seen, I mean, they benefited from it, but they have seen the consequence of talking too much about a rival promotion. And what I'm thinking of the Mick Foley title win, and it was pre-taped, and WCW went, you should see what they're doing on the other channel. They're going to make Mick Foley their champion. Can you believe that? They never
put butts in seats. I think that was the
it was exactly. And then they never took the lead in the Monday Night War again, because everyone went, "Oh Christ, really?" Moved over, and Mick Foley won the world title. So part of that will be because of name redacted and his attitude, but you have kind of seen giving you your competition, though. I don't think WWE see AEW as competition. I don't think. But
as much as obviously from doing these shows, as much as I actually prefer AEW as I enjoy their wrestling and stuff more, and I'm a bigger fan of them now than I am of WWE. But I still, in my head, even though I think what AEW doing are fantastic, because it's given me something else to watch that I can actually get invested in. Because unfortunately, I don't get invested into WWE as much as I did when I was a lot younger, because it's more simplistic. It's great for people because we had Andrew from Cultaholic on here a while ago, and he said the reason why he likes WWE more is that you can kind of dip in and out of that and still get the whole gist. Whereas AEW is very much kind of have to watch everything that they do to understand the pay-per-view. But actually, I prefer that because I can get behind the AEW brand a little bit more, because they go a little bit off the cuff and they do these things that are like smashing Darby Allin through loads of glass. Like, that's the wrestling that I want to see. Like, that's the wrestling that I've watched the ECW pay-per-view so many times. That's the wrestling I actually enjoy, because it's like oh my God, might not be as technical, like it isn't sometimes. But actually you sit there and you go, wow, how have they just got away with doing that? Whereas obviously the WWE has had to come away from that. So yes, I love everything that AEW does, but nobody is any realistic competition to what WWE have, purely for the fact of the money difference. The only thing that you can say is a real reason as to why they're bigger, because actually I think if you put them side by side and you put every single match that WWE does and AEW does, I don't think there will be much difference in terms of the wrestling in a lot of the matches. But I just think the whole brand of WWE is that huge that nobody else, even if they put millions and millions and millions into it, would get up to that level, unfortunately. So there's no one that is a direct competitor. I don't think anybody can kind of argue with that. There's no one that even comes anywhere close. because AEW doesn't come anywhere close. Anybody that thinks they do is kind of not thinking right. Because obviously, as I've said, AEW is my preferred, but I know for a fact they're still miles and miles and miles away from where WWE are as a brand. As a brand more, because AEW isn't really a brand as such. It's just something that is wrestling. Whereas WWE is more than just wrestling. It's their I don't know. I'm going off on a complete tangent here, but it kind of makes sense. So yeah, in kind of to round up what I've just said is that even if they said it's never going to hurt them to, I don't think, acknowledge things that are going on in the wrestling world, to be honest. It's not going to affect them enough to kind of go, oh my God, I wish I hadn't said that. So even if he had have said AEW Revolution, Triple H would have given him a slap on the wrist and say, oh, well, just be careful what you say next time. And that would have been kind of it. So yeah, I've kind of gone off tangent a bit there and done like a little mini rant. So I'm going to pass it over to Posh. I don't really know. I haven't really got a question for you, Posh. I just thought if you've got any thoughts about my little kind of rant and what kind of I don't know what we was mentioning really. Or
I do kind of agree. I think whilst people like to think, oh yeah, there's a competition between AEW and WWE. Literally, in reality, you can't compete with WWE, especially financially anyway, because there'll always be like the big dogs, pardon the pun to old Roman Reigns. There'll always be the big boys, won't they, at the top? But even though some would argue, maybe the product is better in AEW, some would argue, but in reality, people are always going to recognize WWE as like the big boys are up there. Yeah. I don't know. I've got nothing to add there on Sam's tangent. Your pitch for WrestleMania I thought was very good. Oh, Sam's back. There we go.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, we had a little interaction there with the Lice and the Wilson house where somebody just decided to walk in and just tell me about the goings on of everything. And it was that kind of moment where I had to quickly turn my screen off just in case anything was said, and kind of going
At Home with the Wilsons. There you go.
Yeah.
That's a new reality series.
Yeah,
coming soon.
To be honest, I could see that happening. I honestly think sometimes it would actually be. I think because the house. I think because we're not blessed with a massive house, like everything is known. Like there's nothing you can get away with it. So I think it could bring some interesting dynamics. I struggle to know where you'd actually put any cameras because I don't know. We can't really swing a cat in this house, but there we are. Yeah, sorry, Posh. You were kind of.
No, I just was saying, whilst some would argue the product in AEW might be better than WWE, but no one can really compete with like WWE when it comes to like financially or whatever, because they'll always be at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was trying to
agree
say.
with you there.
Yeah, in kind of short term, Posh has just kind of made my 10-minute kind of interlude into one sentence. So yeah, that was that. So basically, just before we finish, I just wanted to touch on sort of what's happening within the Hall of Fame. Before I kind of say one of the inductees and kind of my thoughts behind him, I will hand you over to Lee himself, who's actually saved me the work of looking through notes of the other two Hall of Fame inductees because he's kind of done his own little side mission, as you would call them in video games, and kind of given us an overview of 2 out of 3 of the Hall of Fame inductees. So if you've been watching the whole time, you'll be kind of bored listening to me speak for an hour and 14 minutes. So here is when I can get to the correct part of StreamYard. Here is Lee's take on 2 of the Hall of Famers.
Hello everybody, Lee Meadows here to talk about the latest inductees in the WWE Hall of Fame. We'll make a start with Bull Nakano, a lady with an iconic look and an intimidating presence. Nakano portrayed a villain who made her start in All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, often teaming with her mentor Dump Matsunato. She moved to North America in the early 1990s, working for CMLL, and became the company's first ever women's champion. Signed for the old WWF in 1994, had a tremendous feud with Alundra Blaze, also known as Medusa. Had a little sort of series against, had a count-out draw in a Monday Night Raw match, and an absolute classic at SummerSlam 1994. During this match, Nakano was accompanied by Luna Vachon. You might remember her. Nakano showed her incredible strength and her technical ability. Blaze actually had the upset win here when Nakano missed her trademark top rope leg drop. Blaze scored the victory with a German suplex pin. On the rematch in Japan, Nakano won the title, hitting the signature move, the leg drop, levelling the series 1-1. Moving on, the second people that we're going to be talking about right now is the US Express, the tag team, of course, of Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham. Yeah, these guys are real-life brothers-in-law. Rotunda married Wyndham's sister Stephanie, who, of course, became the parents of the late, great Bray Wyatt, a.k.a. Wyndham Rotunda, of course, and Bo Dallas. The US Express signed for the WWF in 1984 from Florida Championship Wrestling, and they were given a patriotic gimmick. They were given Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA song, of course, and Captain Lou Albano was their manager. They became World Tag Team Champions in January 1985, overcoming the North-South connection, Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch. Their run as champions was short. They lost the titles at WrestleMania 1 at Madison Square Garden to the Iron Sheik, Sheiky Baby, and Nikolai Volkov, when Sheik hit Wyndham over the head with Freddie Blass's cane and Volkov got the pin. And I'm pretty sure they had a rematch shortly afterwards as well. Rotunda, of course, changed his gimmick later in his career, became IRS, teaming with Ted DiBiase, forming Money Incorporated. I remember one of my earliest wrestling memories actually is watching Barry Windham in the old WCW on Channel 4, I think it was. So I feel like I've known that character around for an awful long time. Whether Rotunda's induction means his son, Bray Wyatt, will be inducted into the class after, of course, his untimely death in January last year is yet to be confirmed. But the US Express, of course, deserve their induction in this Hall of Fame class for their contribution in the tag team division. That's it from me for now, guys. Enjoy the rest of your show.
So yeah, that was just a thanks for Lee for kind of doing his hosting skills in a different sense. I think that's one thing I've learned from Lee. I used to, when I was a guest of a show, like I used to just have no notes and just go off the cuff. But I remember being in so many streams with Lee as host where he'd go, "Right, I've got loads of notes now." And
he brings out an entire encyclopedia, and then
yeah, I tried my first few shows on this channel to have no notes, I soon realised as a host of a show, you need notes. So that's one thing I've learned from Lee. But yeah, thank you again for his time in putting that together for us this afternoon. I missed one of his comments, so I'm just going to bring that out. I would have thought Sami Zayn would be after a world title as he's won the IC already. That's Lee's views. I don't think he's up. Unfortunately, I think in the stage that Sami Zayn's at now, I don't see him ever becoming a major champion in WWE. I think if they'd have wanted that to happen, they'd have done that a long time ago, because he's had quite a few opportunities. So I don't think they've always, which is a shame because I really like him, but I don't think they've ever seen him as someone that can kind of be a champion of one of like the main titles. So yeah, that's just a little segment there. So obviously they're the two inductees that we've got, along with this next person. I haven't thought of this segment of the show. I just thought I'd let kind of whatever words would come out. I don't really think me speaking about this person would do it any justice at all to the kind of the magnitude that he has on wrestling as a whole. I think the reason that we have the wrestling that we have now is a lot down to him and the stuff that he's done throughout his career. I know for a fact the only person that could have ever kind of dethroned WWE was the brand that ECW were building when he had that. I think the reason why, in terms of at the time, I don't think in size, but I think in terms of how hooked the fans were and how the fans loved the product as much, I have a slight conspiracy theory that WWE was slightly worried about the fans that they were getting and the magnitude that they were getting. And I think they did all that they could to kind of make sure that ECW didn't get bigger than they were. That's my little conspiracy theory. Because he did something that again, that comes from very rose-tinted glasses because, again, as I've mentioned before, that is very much my style of wrestling. And I really wish that I could go back in time. If somebody said, you've got a time machine and you can do whatever you want with it, I would say, take me back to like the ECW pay-per-views and let me be a part of that crowd. In terms of my comment there, in terms of kind of the money difference that they had, the crowd difference that they had, but I do think at the time, I think that influenced what the WWE did with the Attitude Era. They tried to, I think that certainly had a big part to play in WWE taking that direction, because they saw something there that wasn't anything like we'll ever see again, in the fact of 1 week they would say, oh, bring any weapons you would like into the crowd and we'll use them within the match. The storylines that they had at the time, and yeah, how just mental it was and how kind of patriotic their fans were, the crowd reactions. I certainly think WWE will never say this, but I certainly think, yeah, it had a big part to play in their Attitude Era. Obviously, coming over to what he's done in WWE terms, away from obviously creating ECW, he's been in the background forever. Everything that he does kind of turns to gold. I just see him now outside of the ring doing it. With Roman, it's kind of gone down a notch, but like when he's been with the wrestlers, he's been a main part of that story where he's just been doing like random things outside the ring, and your distraction would be taken from that wrestler, and it would go straight to Paul Heyman. So I certainly think he is he's one of those people that when I am, I don't know, a lot older, I'll kind of say this was our person, or him and sort of 4 or 5 other people. These are our people that was a generation before, but then our generation of everything that wrestling is. But yeah, I don't know if either of you got any thoughts, but obviously, yeah, I don't think anyone's deserved the Hall of Fame quite as much as he has what he's kind of done for wrestling as a whole. So I think it's been it's been a long time coming, but I'm so thankful that they've actually gone, do you know what, for everything that you've done, we're going to give you it now. Because again, like I say, it's one of the most deserved Hall of Fames, I think, ever. So I don't know which one of you want to start. I'm going to be the host, and I'm going to choose Barry to start. I don't know any of your thoughts on that.
I have to admit, I'm not a fan of inducting people into Hall of Fames when they're still active. But it's WrestleMania 40. It's in Philadelphia. Where else are you going to induct him? Where else? Nowhere else makes sense. Like, everyone else on the list can be inducted at any place at any time. But how do you not induct him in Philadelphia? I have to admit, I'm really sorry, Sam. I know I'm the guest, but I have to massively disagree. ECW was never, ever in a billion years ever going to be anything of a threat to WWE. It's like, yes, they had very, very loyal fans, but you could probably fit that fan base into your house. It was rabid, but it was tiny, and it was Philly based. You've just got to listen to it to Paul Heyman. He says we would go places, and yes, they would sell out, but they were one-off shows. You can't. That doesn't always then translate into continued into pay-per-view buys, which they struggled to get. So they were never really a competition. But you were absolutely spot on that we got the Attitude Era because of ECW. There is no Attitude Era. There's no NWO without ECW and doing what they were doing. Like they were the catalyst for the Attitude Era, for when WCW for a short time were actually half decent. They were the genesis of modern wrestling, and that's all also mostly down to Paul Heyman and the team he built around him. Controversial figure, like people still to this day will say that he owes them loads of money, and he would steal from one person to pay another, and freely admits that they were using music that they had no legal right to use. They never paid licensing for it, but screw it, we're ECW, this is what we do. So he is slightly controversial, but yeah, possibly the greatest manager of all time from a TV side. There might be one or two you could argue, but
I don't think there is.
But it would take a very, very good level of argument to beat him. And yeah, it has to be now. Like I said, I'm not normally a fan of it, but the stars aligned. It has to be in Philadelphia. He has earned it. And yeah, it's just I just hope he gets beaten up the night after the Hall of Fame. Like, sorry, Paul. Like, love you, man. But
yeah, you've had your moment. Here you go. Get through.
I think you're pretty safe.
Very nice. Put yourself through a table on the Sunday. That's a good chat. But
I think you're pretty safe in the fact that Paul Heyman doesn't watch this podcast. I hope one day that he might watch a podcast. I hope that one day
he doesn't need to watch it. Someone just has to go, hey, have you heard about this guy from England talking shit about you? So hoping you get put through a table. You know what he's like on Twitter. It doesn't take a lot.
Sure.
So
I want to I want to rephrase my statement in terms of, because I was obviously firing completely off the cuff. I didn't mean competition in terms of I saw them dethroning WWE, because that would just be a daft remark. I mean in terms of in terms that they were slightly worried that people would turn over from a product that wasn't. So if they had kind of like their mid-card match, they would be a little bit worried that they at that stage would turn over to ECW just to see what's going on, just out of that pure curiosity. So I didn't mean that they would kind of, going to shut down WWE, dethrone WCW and everything like that. It just in terms of, I don't think there'll be anyone else between now and when the end of wrestling that will hold a serious like a threat to them being worried about someone watching the ECW product and their products. Obviously, the reason why that didn't happen, I would like to go back in time and have the reason why ECW didn't work as well was because they really struggled to get it on TV. None of the TV and recording companies at the time, obviously because of how extreme it was, wanted to put that risk into it, because obviously the only credibility that they had was seeing those fans went to see the shows, but past that they didn't know if anybody watches it. So I think that's one of the things that unfortunately was the demise of ECW, was that they were never able to get any money from any TV companies in order to better their product. If they had have done, not saying that they would have like taken over, but I think they'd have stayed for a lot longer than they did. And if they'd have been on TV, that would have allowed their fan base to grow exponentially. So then they could have maybe gone and done a bigger arena or done a better pay-per-view. Or so.
To be
so
fair,
I do
that
think.
that is what Paul Heyman says in that documentary that he did. So they got that TV deal. Was it TNT? But then they screwed him because he says that TNT got them to test to see if people would watch wrestling, and when they went, oh, they will, that's when they offered it to WWE, and they got onto pay-per-view, and then the pay-per-view company was screwing them over. And again, if you believe what Paul Heyman says, which he isn't always a trustworthy person from other sources, some people love him, some people hate him. Like there doesn't tend to be a middle ground.
But I do think there's a lot of things that he's sometimes not so truthful on. But he was the only person in ECW terms. He was the only person that knew what was going on. So I don't think he'd lie about that, because it's his credibility at the end of the day. And he is the only, but he is the only person that can kind of call those shots. Like nobody else knows actually what's going on.
I mean, Tommy Dreamer was pretty elbow deep in the running towards the end. But like I said, so depending on if you believe him or not, he says that all he needed was the money. So they did the pay-per-view, they got the buys, but then the pay-per-view company screwed him out of the cash. If you believe what he says, like literally that sum of money they kept off him would have kept them going for, I think he said 6 to 12 months. And in that time, X would have happened, and then Y would have happened. Like, they would have got that TV. They would have got that TV deal, which means they would have then got better pay-per-view buys, which means, so like, you're not wrong. If they had got that cash, according to Paul Heyman, they were months away from, again, not challenging the big two, properly, but being profitable, being survivable. And you don't then end up with the worst invasion angle ever. But you would have had that really good B market national product, and I think he would have been happy with that. It's a shame. I loved ECW. It was so violent. It was so stupid. But you look at its alumni roster. It was stacked, and they had luchadors before anyone else thought to give them. All right, they went to WCW, and Hulk Hogan and everyone else just decided to treat them like poo because they were 5'0" and weren't on steroids like the rest of them. But you look at them and they're brilliant. Like he was
Yeah.
truly able to see a market, mainly because they were cheap as well, but able to see the talent and use it, and they're just never able to compete financially.
This will be one of my favourite moments ever from the channel. Actually, just speaking to actual humans about ECW. Like normally, this stuff has to be just kept in that area of your brain that loves ECW because nobody really ever talks about it. But yeah, I think to further my point, I think if they hadn't seen it as a threat, not in the terms of a threat, they wouldn't have tried to do the old ECW reboot, which they absolutely. That's probably one of the. Do you know the dark stage of the ring, like the dark side of the ring, the program?
Mhm.
They should just do one off the cuff of that and just title it ECW's rerun in WWE because that deserves it, because that's one of the darkest moments in wrestling ever. The way that they tried to bring that back into a product that just couldn't be anything to do with ECW was just dreadful. And
Like
that
ECW One Night Stand, possibly one of the best pay-per-views WWE ever did. That was brilliant. And like,
I meant in terms of that when they tried to do the whole reboot on Raw and SmackDown, and
so they managed to
then
do
we
One
had
Night Stand, and
the
then
worst
completely botched
pay-per-view
it.
ever.
Ezekiel Jackson.
Yeah, we
Big
had
Show and Christian and people who had never ever been on it.
Yeah, we had
like Big Show was their champion, and you're like, what are you doing?
the worst pay-per-view that WWE have ever produced. I think everyone December to Dismember, and I think that'll be everyone's answer. I've got the DVD of that, but only because I've got all the ECW DVDs, so I had to get that one. But it's kind of that DVD that you're like, oh my god, I really shouldn't have it because it's everything I like would just not stand for, but I just had to get it. But obviously that's a little section back into it. We have got a video that Carl did about the Elimination Chamber on that said pay-per-view. So go back and watch that if you haven't already. But yeah, Posh, I'm going to come to you before we kind of wrap it up. Just your thoughts on, the conversation that me and Barry have just had, and Paul Heyman as a person.
I think it's very. I do agree with the whole not about inducting people in the Hall of Fame, even though they're active now. I do think there's a little bit. Yeah, I can see why people might not be a fan of that, but I think Paul Heyman, I think he deserves it. He deserves to get inducted in the Hall of Fame based on what he's done for the business. Past few decades, even back in the 90s with ECW and everything. And it's a very apt location to get inducted in Philadelphia, which was the home of ECW. So I think he deserves to get inducted in the Hall of Fame because he's been a phenomenal manager, definitely one of the greatest managers of all time, and he's got a good mind for the wrestling business.
Yeah. In an alternate universe, I would love Paul Heyman to just have complete control over Raw and SmackDown and NXT, and it just be like ECW Reborn. That's just like a dream of mine. But
he had brief control. He had brief control. He had to report to He Who Shall Not Be Named, but he was like executive director, wasn't he, of like Raw?
It was SmackDown. It was head of creative at SmackDown, I think, and
in like the 2000s, yeah. But like in like 2020, he kind of ran Raw a little bit, and then the pandemic happened, and he kind of left after that. He stopped being a booker there.
Yeah, I do think, obviously, further to what Barry said about the One Night Stand, I do think those two pay-per-views were so successful because Paul Heyman would have still had a say in both of those pay-per-views. So they would have gone to him and gone, look, this is our idea. This is how it's going to go. What matches would you like to see? How would you like the angles to be? Because then you can see the very much difference between the One Night Stand pay-per-views and then the product after that went on to Raw and SmackDown, which then you could see was clearly just the powers above going, right, let's try and reenact what ECW was without having the person that started ECW have any say. We'll just throw it together and see what happens. But obviously, we know how that kind of ended. So I guess that's kind of, as to why those one night stand pay-per-views were so successful. Because again, there was one of the first. I remember getting the one night stand 2005. That was one of the first DVDs I ever got. Remember getting it from from the people that are local, which is just me and Barry. Remember getting it from a man on Cleethorpes Market, not Cleethorpes, Ingermells Market. Sorry, Ingermells Market. There used to be like, there was the dodgy DVDs where they'd just like pirate DVDs, but then there was actual credible DVD stalls that had that, and I think it was a double with something else in it as well. But to paint the picture to Posh and everybody watching, Ingermells is a lovely place, right next to Skegness. And I'm just trying to sell it. Really, it's not really that lovely. A little bit like Skegness, a little bit. I don't know. I can't really say what it's actually like. I'll tell you off stream. But yeah, it's one of those like seasidey sort of places. Ingermells has like its own little mini theme park that's just a theme park that like you could fashion up, Posh or Barry. It's just very. And then there's like a market behind that, which is where the first DVD, one of the first DVDs came from. We're just now kind of waffling because I'm trying to think how Kyle ends the stream, because I normally pass it over to him now and say, what videos have you got in the works? But obviously I haven't got that beauty tonight, so I can't even say that. So I'm trying to think as to what he normally says. So first of all, I'll come to Barry. Thanks for coming on. It's been good to have a new face as always. Yes, normally this part of the show is where I would hand it over to you and you would say what your social medias are. I'm going to leave that up to you if you want to say that. Obviously, we're all kind of in this space where people kind of go to Twitter for Posh's Arsenal rants, or so we're happy to give out our social medias. But obviously, as someone that's completely separate from this space, let's say, it's kind of up to you as to whether you give out your social medias or whether you just want to say a little piece about whatever. You go ahead.
I mean, my social media presence is rather boring. I like and retweet other people's stuff. I'm not a big poster myself. But since I'm here, I do run a cricket team, which I know is completely offshoot, but while I've got you guys, I may as well. And we're called the Broken 11. And so we're a mental health cricket team whose remit is people who are broken physically, mentally, emotionally. But obviously, everyone knows the benefits and the power that team sports can give someone. And that's who we're here for. People who are broken, who want to play sport. You don't have to be good. I haven't played since I was 19. My co-founder has never played. Well, no, that's a lie. He played his first ever game 3-4 weeks ago indoors. He's never played 11-side game of cricket in his life, ever. And he's a co-founder. So, like, we want to win because who wants to play to lose? But winning is not what we're here for. It's a nice bonus, but we're here to help each other, here to have a laugh, and to help each other feel a little bit less broken. So if you're from the Lincolnshire area, give us a follow. Even if you're not from the Lincolnshire area, give us a follow. And yeah, we're called the Broken 11. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Oh, sorry, X. We're on Twitter, and hopefully we'll start having YouTube channel ourselves. But yeah, Broken 11. Give us a shout. Give us a follow. Help spread the word.
So that is the Instagram. While I didn't just make that up on the spot. It's actually a really good segment because I'd forgot completely about that. So actually, when you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I could have been really like clever and asked you, oh well, what are some things that you're doing in life? But no, that was so that's the Instagram. I believe so that's how you'll find them on Instagram. I believe the Facebook page is just.
I think it's the same. Oh no, I think that's just the Broken 11. I
Okay.
think. I'll find facebook.com/the Broken 11.
Yeah, so if you just type in the Broken XI instead of 11, and then Cricket Club, that'll come up. Obviously the team that plays is obviously like Lincolnshire based, but obviously anybody's free to kind of follow the journey that they go on. Yeah, and like I say, when you get the YouTube up and running, if we can do anything to help, then let us know. My knowledge of cricket goes as far as I watched the Ashes for the first time last summer, and that's about it. I might make an appearance at some stage, but it was never my strong point. I just come back to rounders in school, and I'd be the one that they'd take the mick off because I couldn't catch, throw, or bat. So yeah.
Neither can my co-founder, so I wouldn't worry about it.
So yeah, because the ball would come to me, and if it was coming at any pace, I would, instead of catching the ball like most people would have done, I thought this is coming at, because I thought this is coming at some pace. It's going to potentially hurt if I catch it, so let me just drop it. So that was
I did.
Yeah, so that was what I would have done. A bit like rugby, I found a way to get out of rugby for pretty much the whole of my schooling career, which was a fantastic move by me. The Jeremy Clarkson moment comes to your head when sometimes my genius, it really scares me. That's what it did to get out of rugby. But so obviously go and follow them, go and follow the journey that they're going on. And yeah, Posh, I'll hand it over to you.
You can find me on Twitter at PoshBertie. My Instagram is at BertieOneless. I also run the Instagram account of Gooner Gathering, which is a channel that myself, Lee Meadows, who you've seen, and Sam occasionally are part of. Obviously, the channel is going to be quite busy this week. An important game for Arsenal coming up, but I'm going to not talk about football on this channel. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
As Carl's not here, I will utter the words of 60 million down the drain. Kai Havertz scores again. He's not gonna be very pleased with that when he watches that part back. So I send my heartfelt apologies, but I'm not really sorry at all. So yeah, basically this is the part that Kai would normally speak on. So I believe he would tell you that he has some videos in the works, but he's not telling you what they are. We have been quite active recently of posting a lot of videos in a short space of time. There's been some great ones in there, some re-uploads as well. We've got the merch. The merch is there. Hopefully, as of a couple of streams' time, both me, Posh, and Kyle will all have some merch to wear on stream at the same time. And that's going to be a surreal, oh my God moment. So yeah, hopefully that is coming soon. We've obviously got our Patreon, which we've got some really cool ideas for. I'm not trying to sell it to you. Well, I kind of am, but I'll give you the reasoning why. So in the works, we've got some, we're going to do some play-alongs of some old wrestling games. We've got some ideas of watching pay-per-views together. And then obviously that will give you the access to the Discord, and then you could come and watch the pay-per-views with us and stuff. We've got lots of ideas in the works for that. So obviously that's a future thing. Could be a future thing forever, but who knows? And But yeah, I believe that's all that normally Carl says. You can find me if you want to find me on Instagram. Sam Wilson AFC on Instagram. Twitter, I think it's the same with instead of the I think it's number 1. But I very much, to be honest, I very much kind of retweet things Arsenal. Have it to see if Posh ever goes on a meltdown. That's one of my favourite moments on Twitter.
One of the few. It's one of the only advantage if we lose. You can see Twitter gold from me.
Yeah, absolute meltdowns.
I wouldn't call it like. I wouldn't say it's a complete meltdown, but I just say that
a lot of the time it's complete meltdown. But the thing is, I think the reason why I like it so much is I would like to tweet that, but I don't dare tweet that. Plus, nobody would see it if I tweeted that, so it'd be pointless anyway. So
you two should be used to choking by now. Surely you do it every year.
Well, all I'm going to say is we'll wait and see what happens.
We'll
wait and see what happens.
You know
but you're preaching to the converter, Barry. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. As much as I've got to kind of somewhat agree. You've now, do you know when I said that we'll help you with any YouTube type stuff? For that disrespect, I take back that statement. I redact that statement, and we will not help you. No, I'm joking. But yeah, Carl's going to kill me if we carry on talking about football. So yeah, hope you all have a good evening. Been on here a lot longer than I'd hoped, but that shows that it was good content, as I would say. So yeah, until the next time, no clue when that will be. So yeah, see you all soon.
Bye, guys.